Yo, welcome to Hard Pass. I am your host, Jacques Slade. This week, we're talking about LeBron James at the Drew League with maximum enthusiasm, how James Whitner's Armour Jordan collabs are changing the game, the week's hottest releases, and of course, this week's Hard Passes. All right, let's just start with some hot takes. Jimmy Fallon has a sneaker collab on the way with notorious shit steers MSCHF. You might remember them for their collabs with Lil Nas X, but definitely not with Nike on their Air Max 97, and most recently with Tyga and absolutely not Vans on the Wavy Baby. They are called the Gob Stompers, inspired by the Willy Wonka there's a potential lawsuit. And they feature a tearaway upper, which theoretically shows itself after a couple of sessions at the park, and not just because you cut them off with an X-Acto knife. On the list of official, unofficial late night talk show host sneaker collabs, this might be the most interesting yet. Storytelling wise, it's not on the level of Yeezys and Miro Timberlands, but it's a more intriguing novelty than the Air Jordan 1 inspired by MJ's appearance on David Letterman. Hey, remember those and how badly everybody tried to care, but it just wasn't happening? That might have been the real beginning of the death of the sneaker culture, not resale prices going down. And if we can somehow blame Jay Leno for all of this, that's the better. So, 2.4 million people entered the raffle for the Travis Scott's Air Jordan 1 low release, and I'm supposed to do what with that news? When you factor in how much attention Travis gets and how popular Jordans are, 2.4 million actually sounds low. It's like when the NBA and the NFL tout the bajillion fans they have around the world, but when it comes time to vote for the All-Star games and Pro Bowls, they get like a fraction of a percentage of a decimal point of those numbers. At least give me the bot numbers too. The Major League Baseball All-Star Game was this past week, and before the show, the players got to do what the NBA and the swagged out guys in the NFL seemingly do before every game, and that's show off the drip. Not enough sneakers for my taste, but shout out to Shohei Ohtani with the best man at the wedding vibes. If he paired that suit with Concords, that would have been the most 2011 look ever. And if you wanted something a little more modern, Panda Dunks. Congratulations to James Harden on the launch of his second soul album, Smooth, Deep, and Bold. I know it's for some wine collab, but the world needs a follow-up to Harden's Soul badly.
This is James Harden. This song's for you, girl.
While the rest of the world was slobbering over LeBron James's appearance at the Drew League, Kevin Durant was getting some shots up in dunks at the Portland Pro-Am, officially becoming the first person this century to hoop in dunks. How sad is it that if KD actually did hoop in dunks next season, he'd get more attention for those than the past decade combined for his own signature shoes? Charles Barkley could be the latest name to join the LIV Golf Tour. I gotta say, that's legit big news because it could mean the end of his run at TNT and inside the NBA. On one hand, I would be sad to see Chuck go for any reason. On the other hand, the talk and subtweets by Kenny, Ernie, Shaq, and whenever they have Draymond in the studio about Chuck is going to be glorious. You know they won't be quiet, unlike Chuck, who's going to have to learn to be quiet about certain things for the first time. You ain't starting any dialogue there, Chuckster. Speaking of things not lasting forever, shout out to the Bodega Hive, of which Co-Writer was a proud member of. Desus and Mero, the popular podcasters and late night talk show hosts, have announced their Showtime program will not return for a 5th season and that their podcast, the art, has shut down. It's a bummer, but to see their rise from Twitter to Complex Device and beyond was cool and inspiring to see. Shouts to Young Chipotle and the Human Do-Rag Flap, and hopefully the inevitable reunion is sooner rather than later. Okay, so James Whitner, he is the founder of the Whitaker Group, and he made an appearance on the Complex Sneakers podcast this past week, and as you might expect, he got the people talking. It was his second appearance on the podcast and the first time in person, and he made the most of it, debuting an Armour Air Jordan 12 that I really hope gets a retail release sooner than later. The whole pod is a fascinating conversation as they go into many different topics, including the care for the storytelling process of Whitner's collaborations with Nike and Jordan Brand, like the recently released social status Nike Air Penny 1s. Whitner also offered some critiques when a brand fails a collaboration, like the Supreme Nike Zoom Flight 95. I have to say, as egregious as the Supreme and Vans bullet hole sneaker fiasco was last week, Whitner's comments about those 95s has made me look at that release a lot differently. Pretty sure our takes on those shoes before was, oh great, another Lazy Supreme collab that ruins our fave, yay. Not anymore. Anyways, I don't want to spoil the pod, so go check it out. It's worth a listen if you have an hour to spare after you watch this episode of Hard Pass and you care about sneaker culture and where it's headed. But look, the comments that raised our collective eyebrows here at Hard Pass was just how much money Whitner spends to make sure his releases are among the most fair in the business.
I don't think nobody has a better release process than me. You can put us up against anybody. And I shouldn't say me, I should say us. Cav, the way Cav runs our releases, the way they sit there and go through, like, yo, it's a team of people that spends way more time and money. We spend $500,000 a launch.
$500,000? That's a pretty penny, man. Pun not intended. It does make you think about a few things. A, Whitner doesn't mess around. He will spend that money to build up goodwill. B, it's been worth it because even though sneaker Twitter is jaded as hell, his stores are almost always cited as one of the few that does right by their customers. C, if Whitner is willing to spend that much money, is it still worth it to a reseller? And D, everything hangs by a thread, I swear. Look, I can't tell if I should be relieved or worried that even a brand as successful as the ones Whitner has been able to build through the years still has to go through the same anxieties on release day as we do right before we hit publish on a video. It's like what you see here on your screen right now is the finished product. But if I were to move the camera, say, a few inches to the left or a few inches to the right, you might see stuff on fire. Not literally, of course. Well, not literally for most weeks, I guess. There was that one segment we cut where I was holding a lighter next to a pair of Jordans for some reason. But anyways, for Armour and Social Status, they have to work with Nike on the product. Hope nothing goes wrong in the production process, like, say, a front-facing person being involved in something that gets them canceled. And then you have to put together a strong and forward-thinking team that can hold the digital fort long enough. In this case, 4 minutes. For people to get the shoes that they actually want. Out of curiosity, I did a few quick Google searches on bot protection and bringing top-notch tech people on board, and yeah, that $500K still seems high, but not as far-fetched as I believed it was when I first heard it. And also, a few quick searches on Whitner will show you that the Whitaker Group, the large conglomerate that he owns, which includes Armour, Social Status, and their experimental experiences in the hotel and restaurant industry, are doing big things. Not to say that $500K is a drop in the bucket for them, but it's a piece of a bigger picture that doesn't just revolve around sneakers. Oh, and one last thing. Whitner sure does have a lot of confidence that Marcus Jordan and Trophy Room are going to turn things around. I don't know that doing the absolute minimum of avoiding backdoor allegations is worthy of flowers, but yeah, let's hope Marcus can pull it off. Trophy Room has the potential to be as big as any other retailer out there thanks to the most undeniable of connections, but it needs to do a lot more than a few not shady releases to win back the people. All right. It's time for the Heat Check, where we bring you everything that's dropping this week. We have the Nike KD 15 on the 27th for $160, the Nike Dunk Low Washed Teal and Bleached Coral on the 27th for $120, the Nike Zoom LeBron 3 The Shop on the 27th for $185, the Nike Dunk Low Graffiti on the 28th for $110, Air Jordan 36 Low on the 28th for $170, the Jimmy Fallon and MSCHF Gobstopper on the 28th, the Reebok Answer 1 OG on the 29th for $170, the Air Jordan 1 Low Fly Ease Biohack on the 29th for $130, and the Air Jordan 3 Desert Elephant on the 30th for $200. And then our pick of the week is the women's Air Jordan 8 Taxi on the 29th for $200. The Air Jordan 8 is such a love it or leave it kind of sneaker. It's got some fire colorways that are among the best J's ever, but if they don't hit, they do absolutely nothing for me. This new Taxi colorway is doing a little something for me. It's a shame that my feet will not be able to fit into a size 11 of these, but hoping at some point that we actually get a men's release because I'm not the type to squeeze into a shoe that's clearly not made for me. Let everybody else shine, man. Give them their time. And now for a heat check on the Louis Vuitton Nike Air Force One. After talking about them and power ranking them last week, let's check in with the results of my efforts to try and acquire a pair. Let's see, I was ready, my computer was ready, my credit score was ready, my alibi to my family about why I just spent a week's worth of gas money was ready. I was good to go. And then I saw this on my screen. And then when I finally got through, I saw this. And then I waited and waited and waited. And well, you get the idea. By the time the whole thing was over, I was greeted with this screen, which is the Louis Vuitton way of saying, F you, get out. So I saved myself around $3,000 to $4,000. Don't get me wrong, I would have loved to have gotten a pair to have in the collection because you never know when it might make sense to have them in a video or trade for something crazy. But at the same time, not having them is also a relief because I don't have to deal with the headache of seeing that charge on my next bill next month. Interestingly enough, it seems like the resale prices for the Air Force Ones are not going to be approaching the same numbers as the Dior Jordan ones. There's a number of reasons for that. Chief among them is that we're comparing an Air Force One to an Air Jordan 1 in 2022. Look, no offense to the Air Force One, but other than a very specific time frame in the 2000s, the Jordan 1s take precedence over the Air Force Ones and the Dunks. The multiple colorways of the Air Force Ones could also be perceived as a dilution of sorts, while the Dior Jordan 1 has that one distinct, if unspectacular, colorway. And the Diors have already had multiple viral moments, from Inauguration Day to the dudes who like to throw super kick parties. All the Air Force Ones have so far are sad tweets from people who missed out, myself included. Well, that and DJ Khaled wearing a Supreme and Louis Vuitton everything to a Miami Heat game. Yeah. Inauguration Day and super kick parties, they sound way cooler. This was a rough week, man. Between the LV Forces, Jackie Robinson Dunks, and the Travis Scott Jordan 1 lows, so many of us took not one, not two, but 3 giant L's this week. Not everybody that scored a pair of any of those 3 kicks is going to resell them for a nice profit, but sadly, a significant percentage of people will. And that's why what James Whitner is doing with his collabs with Jordan Brand and the money he's spending to combat bots is so crucial to changing the perception that the game is rigged. If they can get more shoes to actual sneakerheads and casuals who want to rock them, the better. Eliminating all the bots and resellers is impossible, but I hope that they and others with a similar view of the business can keep plugging away at our continued cynicism, one fair and equitable release at a time. All right, it's time for this week's Hard Pass, where we take a look at something in the culture that just needs to go, like ESPN playing off Klay Thompson. So Thompson was accepting the ESPY Award for the Best Comeback Athlete, which, was well-deserved considering he missed 2.5 seasons due to various injuries. And as part of his speech, he shouted out the late Kobe Bryant and his family for being an inspiration. And I know he was pretty much done with his speech, but there was a part of me that was hoping he'd just keep going and riffing about, anything. What he read in the LA Times today, why he correctly refers to the home of the Lakers as Staples Center still, or more mundane stuff like who has a red carpet event several hours before the show and then rounds up everybody in a bus to take them somewhere else. Baseball is weird. Actually, this week's Hard Pass goes to everybody who indulged in the LeBron was at the Drew League discourse this past week. And there were many. Too damn many, if you ask me. Like, yeah, man, we get it. LeBron showed up at the Drew League for the first time since 2011. He covered the Adidas patch on his jersey. He wore the Nike LeBron 20, blah, blah, blah. Look, it was fun to see King Drew popping like it was in the mid-2010s again. But I did not need the round-the-clock coverage from the media wondering what this means for LeBron's legacy or for the Lakers. Not to mention the nitpicking from LeBron haters, aka Jordan stans. This reminded me of when LeBron first signed with the Lakers and everybody was tripping when a rumor got out that he was going to pop up at a Blaze Pizza location. And then he never showed up because why would he? He's not Shaquille O'Neal. He's not going to show up at a random store and hook up everybody with pizzas. He might do that in Akron, but not here in LA. And that's honestly a little bit of a bummer. Yes, even though I'm not like a lot of Laker fans who think LeBron is a failure because he hasn't delivered us multiple championships already, I do agree with those who feel like he hasn't done enough to really ingratiate himself in the community. Nobody should expect him to pop up in K-Town like on a random Tuesday afternoon or drop by King Drew to visit kids even when there's no game going on. But the reason why legends like Magic Johnson and the late Kobe Bryant have the standing here that they do is because they felt like one of us. A Drew League appearance is nice, but more, I think it would be better. All right, that's going to do it for the show. Thank you guys for watching Hard Pass. I'll see you next week. If you would like to possibly be featured in a future episode, call us at 818-493-9325. Leave a short message or social media if you want, no more than 30 seconds. All right, I'll see you next week. Peace. I'm Jacques Slade, a.k.a. Cousteau, a.k.a. KU, a.k.a. Lil Nutsack, a.k.a. MC Dan Harmon, a.k.a. Pacoima Poppy, a.k.a. Young Jollibee. Wait, that's co-writer. A.k.a. Mr. Wear Your Kicks, a.k.a. Jeff Goldblum, sneaker guru, a.k.a. Laker fan who embraces Minneapolis and their 5 championships because Boston, aka Trap Nicholas, the sneaker champion golfer of the year, aka the Wayfarer Mamba, aka the Elden Ring speedrunner, as in how fast I can turn the game off because there's a giant lobster on my screen, and the hell with that? That's weird. Aka the algorithm hater, except, when my videos pop up in your feed, aka my dad is Korean and I got the hoodie to prove it, aka the John Cena of YouTube subscriber counts. Why? Because you can't see them. Aka my gamer tag is Shoe Hefner 6, aka the thumbnail face maker, aka Dragon Ball GT apologist because Dan Dan Kokoru Hikaru Kitu slaps, aka the big dog when they say I'm just trying to get like you, big dog. All right, that's enough. Peace for real. All right, let's make some faces.